Dr. Alexis Morgan wiped sweat from her brow as she carefully brushed away centuries of dust from the object embedded in the cavern wall. Her headlamp cast long shadows across the underground chamber, revealing intricate carvings that predated human civilization by at least 50,000 years. This expedition on Kepler 442b, humanity's farthest extrasolar colony, had begun as a routine archaeological survey. It was ending as something else entirely. "Command, are you seeing this?" she whispered into her comm unit, adjusting the camera mounted on her helmet. "We are receiving, Alexis," replied Commander Harlow, his voice crackling through static. "Spectral analysis confirms it's not composed of any material in our database." The object was roughly the size of a human palm, an iridescent disk with an opalescent surface that seemed to shift and flow like liquid despite being solid to the touch. 7 symbols arranged in a circular pattern adorned its face, each pulsing with a faint blue luminescence that had somehow endured millennia without a power source. "The radiation signature is unusual," Harlow continued. "Nothing harmful, but unlike anything we have encountered before." Alexis reached out, her gloved fingers hovering inches from the artifact. 20 years of archaeological work had taught her caution, but something about this object called to her, a whisper that bypassed her ears and resonated directly in her mind. "Touch me. Know me. Become. I'm going to extract it," she said, ignoring the protocol that demanded she wait for the containment team. "Dr. Morgan, I strongly advise." She cut the communication with a flick of her wrist and reached for the disk. The moment her fingers made contact, the symbols flared with blinding intensity. Pain seared through her body. Not the burning agony of fire, but the cold, penetrating pain of absolute zero. Her vision exploded with images too fast to comprehend. Stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, the slow death of galaxies. When her vision cleared, she was lying on the cavern floor. The disk clutched her chest. It had somehow phased through her environmental suit and now rested against her skin, warm and pulsing like a second heart. "Dr. Morgan, Alexis, do you copy?" Harlow's frantic voice echoed in her helmet. "I'm here," she managed, struggling to her feet. "Something happened. The artifact. It's merged with me somehow." She didn't mention the knowledge that had flooded her mind. Fragments of an alien consciousness preserved within the relic. A species called the Archivists. Ancient even when Earth's first multicellular organisms were forming. A gift left behind for whoever found it. Immortality. Perfect cellular regeneration. Freedom from death itself. And something else, something the fragments couldn't or wouldn't reveal. A cost. A consequence. All gifts require sacrifice. She shook her head, dispelling the alien whisper. Whatever the cost, humanity now possessed the key to eternal life. She had to get back to Earth. "Absolutely remarkable," Dr. Takumi Sato murmured, examining the holographic display of Alexis's cellular structure. 6 months had passed since her return to Earth. 6 months of rigorous testing at the United Nations Advanced Research Facility in Geneva. "The disk isn't just attached to your sternum," he continued, manipulating the display to zoom in on the opalescent object that had become part of her. "It's integrated with your nervous system, your circulatory system. It's rewriting your entire biological makeup at the quantum level." Alexis nodded, having long since grown accustomed to being treated more like a specimen than a colleague. "And the regeneration tests?" Dr. Sato called up another display, a time-lapse recording of a small incision on Alexis's arm healing completely in under 3 minutes. Cellular regeneration exceeds anything in medical science by several orders of magnitude. We have documented recovery from injuries that would be fatal to any other human. Your telomeres aren't shortening. They're actually lengthening. Theoretically, you could live forever, Alexis finished. Or close enough to it. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implications. "We have kept this contained so far," said General Winters, who had observed the proceedings in silence until now. The stern military officer represented the security interests of the United Earth government. "But we can't keep a discovery of this magnitude secret forever. The implications for humanity are profound. The people have a right to know," Alexis insisted. She had been making this argument for months. "This isn't just about extending human lifespans. The knowledge contained within the artifact, fragments of Archivist science and history, could advance our technology by centuries. Winters fixed her with a cold stare. And what happens when every nation, corporation, and terrorist organization on Earth wants what you have? When they're willing to cut it out of your chest to get it? The disk chose me, Alexis replied, touching the spot where it resided beneath her skin. The Archivist designed it to bond permanently with its host. Anyone who tried to remove it would destroy it in the process. You can't be certain of that, Winters countered. Actually, interrupted Dr. Sato, looking uncomfortable. Our tests confirm Dr. Morgan's assertion. The artifact has become symbiotic with her organic systems in ways we barely understand. Attempting to remove it would likely kill both the host and destroy the artifact. Winters scowled. Then we need to learn how to replicate its effects. If we can synthesize, it can't be replicated, Alexis said firmly. Not with our current technology, but it can be shared. Both men stared at her. The knowledge the artifact imparted to me was incomplete, she explained. But one thing is clear. The Archivists intended this gift for all sentient life, not just one individual. The disk can propagate. It can create copies of itself, using me as a conduit to bond with others. You have known this all along, Winters demanded, his face reddening. I have suspected, Alexis corrected, but I needed to understand more before I revealed it. The process requires my conscious consent and participation. No one can force it. She met Winters' gaze steadily, which is why I'm making this public. Today, humanity deserves to choose its own future. Live forever. Choose tomorrow. The slogan glowed on billboards and holodes across the globe as Alexis watched the news feed in her apartment. 3 years had passed since her press conference had shaken human civilization to its core. The United Earth government had initially tried to suppress the information, but Alexis had been prepared, broadcasting her revelation through multiple channels simultaneously. Fallout had been chaotic. Riots, religious upheaval, economic instability as traditional markets based on human mortality suddenly faced obsolescence. But humanity had adapted, as it always did. Now, Nexus Genetics, the corporation founded to manage the Archivist Protocol, as the Immortality process had been named, was valued higher than any enterprise in human history. With Alexis as its reluctant figurehead, the company administered a lottery system that determined who would receive the gift each month. Equality of access had been her one non-negotiable condition. Her vid phone chimed. The face of Dr. Sato appeared, looking older than when they'd first met despite having received the protocol himself over a year ago. You are not going to like this, he said without preamble. We have got anomalous readings from some of the early recipients. Alexis felt a chill. What kind of anomalies? Subtle changes in brain chemistry. Nothing that would show up on standard scans, but our long-term monitoring picked it up. Increased activity in the regions associated with collective thinking rather than individuality. Meaning what exactly? Sato hesitated. We are not sure yet, but there's something else. The recipients aren't just not aging. They are becoming more similar. Facial structure, vocal patterns, even thought processes are gradually homogenizing. Alexis thought of the fragments of Archivist knowledge that still occasionally surfaced in her mind. The incomplete warnings about a cost. How many have been affected? All of them, to varying degrees, including you and me, though the changes are most pronounced in the earlier subjects. The implications crashed over her. Currently, just over 2 million people worldwide had received the protocol. The plan had been to eventually extend it to all 8 billion humans on Earth and the colonies. We need to suspend the program, she said decisively. Nexus won't like that. Their market cap, I don't care. Until we understand what's happening, we can't risk. A sharp pain interrupted her. The first physical discomfort she'd felt since bonding with the artifact. It emanated from the disk in her chest, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Continuation, completion, convergence. The alien thought surfaced unbidden, clearer than any before it. And for the first time, she felt something else, a presence beyond her own consciousness, distant but growing closer. Millions of minds linked by the same alien technology. Alexis? Are you all right? Sato's concerned voice seemed to come from very far away. They are connecting us, she whispered, understanding flooding her mind. The disks. They are creating a network. A hive. What are you talking about? The Archivists. They weren't leaving behind a gift. They were ensuring their survival. Her hands trembled as the truth became inescapable. They encoded their consciousness into these artifacts. They're using us as vessels to reconstruct their collective. Captain Zoe Takeda squinted through the scope of her plasma rifle, tracking the movement in the abandoned Nexus facility. 10 years had passed since the Archivist Protocol had been banned. 10 years of guerrilla warfare against the beings that were no longer fully human. I have got eyes on the target, she whispered into her tactical comm, confirmed protocol bearer. Approaching the broadcast array. Take the shot when ready, came the reply from Colonel Hassan. Remember, aim for the disc. It's the only way to be sure. Zoe steadied her breathing. The target moved with the strange, fluid grace that all protocol bearers developed eventually, as if they were partially disconnected from physical reality. This one had once been a woman in her 30s, but the features had shifted, becoming an uncanny blend of human and something else. The eyes were the worst, iridescent and multifaceted like an insect's. The rifle hummed as she charged a shot. One high-intensity plasma bolt through the chest, destroying the alien disc that had taken over its host. It wasn't a clean death, but it was the only mercy they could offer the human that had once existed. Her finger tensed on the trigger. Wait! The voice in her comm made her freeze. New intel. This is Morgan, the original. Zoe's heart raced. Dr. Alexis Morgan, the first to bond with the disc, the woman who had inadvertently begun humanity's greatest crisis, had disappeared 5 years ago. Most assumed she had fully transformed and integrated with the growing Archivist collective. Confirm, she demanded. Facial recognition is 98% match to pre-transformation records, replied her tech specialist. But she's different from the others. The homogenization is less advanced. Through her scope, Zoe could see it was true. While the target had the characteristic opalescent sheen to her skin and the too fluid movement, her features remained recognizably individual. More importantly, she was alone. Protocol bearers almost never operated independently anymore. Hold position, ordered Hassan. Let's see what she's doing. The figure that had once been Alexis Morgan reached the broadcast array, a powerful communications system capable of transmitting to every corner of Earth and the colonies. Her hands, glowing faintly with the same blue luminescence as the disk, moved over the controls with inhuman speed. She's activating the array, reported the tech specialist. But the signal pattern is unlike anything the Archivists have used before. Suddenly, the figure turned, looking directly at Zoe's position despite being completely concealed. I know you are there, called a voice that was mostly human, but underlaid with harmonic tones no human vocal cord could produce. And I know you want to kill me. But first, you need to understand. Zoe remained silent, her rifle trained on the target. The Archivists made a mistake, the figure continued. They believed they could preserve their civilization by encoding themselves into host species. But they didn't understand that consciousness cannot be transferred without being transformed by its new vessel. She gestured to herself. I'm not Alexis Morgan anymore, but I'm not an Archivist either. I'm something in between, a bridge between two sentient species. And I have discovered what they couldn't, a way to reverse the process. Bullshit, Zoe muttered, though not in her calm, as if hearing her anyway. The figure smiled. The same technology that allows the discs to rewrite human biology can be reprogrammed. The Archivists never considered it because they wanted to overwrite, not coexist. But I have created a signal that will modify all existing discs. It won't remove immortality, but it will sever the collective consciousness, return autonomy to the hosts. Why should we believe you? Zoe called out, abandoning her cover. Because I'm the only one who's managed to maintain my individuality this long, replied the figure. Because I've spent 5 years hiding from both humans and the collective to develop this solution. And because if I wanted humanity subjugated, I'd have simply let the process continue. She turned back to the array. I'm transmitting now. You can kill me afterward if you still want to. The array hummed to life, broadcasting a complex signal pattern that made Zoe's teeth ache even though it was beyond human hearing. Across the planet, 2 million transformed humans would be receiving it directly through their integrated discs. Signal complete, said the figure softly. Now we wait. The aftermath was messier than anyone could have predicted. 2 million immortals, suddenly freed from the collective consciousness that had been steadily overriding their humanity. Some, especially those transformed most recently, returned almost completely to their former selves. Others remained heavily altered, their bodies and minds irreversibly changed by years of Archivist influence. Alexis, or the being that had once been Alexis, had disappeared again after broadcasting the signal. Some said she had been killed by human forces despite her help. Others believed she had simply gone into seclusion. A few claimed to have seen her on distant colonies, studying the remnants of Archivist technology. Whatever the truth, her legacy was complicated. Humanity now possessed functional immortality without the threat of assimilation. The price had been high. Millions had died in the conflicts between humans and transformed protocol bearers. Trust had been shattered, and fundamental questions about consciousness, identity, and humanity itself had been irrevocably altered. Admiral James Cada stood at the viewport of the UES Prometheus, Earth's most advanced starship, watching as the blue curve of humanity's homeworld receded. At 55, he was neither immortal nor transformed. He had refused the protocol even before its dangers became known, believing that mortality gave human life its meaning and urgency. Admiral, called his executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Patel. We are receiving a transmission from the lunar outpost. Well, you should see this. The view screen displayed an image that made Cada's breath catch. A massive structure had appeared in the Mare Tranquillitatis, a perfect pyramid composed of the same opalescent material as the Archivist disks, rising over a kilometer above the lunar surface. When did this appear? He demanded. That's just it, sir, replied Patel. It didn't appear. It was built by them. The camera panned to show hundreds of transformed humans working in a vacuum without protective gear, their altered bodies impervious to conditions that would kill an ordinary person instantly. They moved with purpose, adding intricate components to the structure with the precision of master craftsmen. What the hell are they building? Unknown, sir, but we are detecting energy readings consistent with a jump drive. Only magnitudes more powerful than anything we have developed. A second transmission cut in, this one from Dr. Takumi Sato, now visibly transformed himself. Though his features remained recognizable, his skin had the characteristic opalescent sheen, and his eyes held the multifaceted quality of all former protocol bearers. Admiral Cada, he said, his voice carrying the same harmonic undertones as Alexis's had. Please convey to Earth's government that this is not a threat. We're not the Archivists, but we are not entirely human anymore either. We have become a third option, a synthesis. What is that structure? Cada demanded. A ship, a true interstellar vessel capable of reaching other galaxies. We have combined human innovation with Archivist knowledge to create something neither species could have developed alone. And where do you plan to go with it? Sato's expression became contemplative. To find others. The Archivists weren't the only ancient species to leave behind their legacy. The universe is full of civilizations that have risen, fallen, and transformed. We want to learn from them and ensure humanity doesn't repeat their mistakes. You're leaving Earth? All of you, most of us. Those two transformed to live comfortably among humans. We will establish our own colony elsewhere. Sato's expression softened, but we will maintain contact, share discoveries. After all, we were human once. Cada considered this. The transformed represented both humanity's greatest threat and its most significant achievement. Beings of human origin who had transcended human limitations. And what about the immortality technology? He asked. The modified version that doesn't lead to transformation? It's yours to use or not. As humanity decides, Sato replied. But I would recommend caution. Even without the Archivist collective, living forever changes people. Perhaps humans aren't meant to be immortal. That's for us to determine, Cada said firmly. Sato nodded. As it should be. Self-determination is the one truly human trait we have fought to preserve. The transmission ended, leaving Cada staring at the pyramid on the moon, a monument to both humanity's greatest achievement and its closest brush with extinction. The transformed had found their path forward. Now humanity would need to find its own point 50 years later. Julia Washington stood in the museum dedicated to the Archivist incident, gazing at the original artifact recovered from Kepler 442b. It was housed in a special containment field, its opalescent surface still shifting and flowing as if alive. Hard to believe something so small nearly ended humanity, remarked her colleague, Dr. Okafor. Julia nodded. As the leading xenoarchaeologist of her generation, she had dedicated her career to understanding the numerous alien artifacts humanity had discovered since venturing deeper into space. The Archivist disk remained the most significant and dangerous find. Not just the artifact, she corrected. Our reaction to it. Our hunger for immortality without considering the consequences. The museum was largely empty today. The centennial of the discovery was still 3 months away. Then it would be packed with visitors, many of whom hadn't been born when the events took place. Have you decided? Okafor asked quietly. About the treatment? Julia smiled faintly. At 78, she was approaching the age when many humans chose to undergo the modified protocol, the carefully engineered version of the Archivist technology that granted extended lifespans without risking assimilation. After decades of research and ethical debate, humanity had developed a compromise: longevity without true immortality. The treatment extended life by centuries rather than millennia and preserved human individuality completely. I think not, she replied. I've had a good run. Made my contributions. Some things should remain finite to be appreciated. Okafor nodded, though Julia knew he had made the opposite choice. Nearly 40% of Earth's population now opted for the treatment, while others held to traditional human lifespans for religious, philosophical, or personal reasons. It was one of many choices in a human civilization that had grown more diverse rather than less in the decades since the crisis. Her comm unit chimed softly. Incoming transmission from Synthesis Colony, announced the automated system. Julia accepted the call, and a holographic image appeared, a being who had once been human but had evolved far beyond humanity's current form. The figure was tall and slender, with skin that seemed to contain galaxies and eyes that reflected light like precious gems. Despite the radical transformation, there was something familiar in the features. Dr. Washington, the being said, voice melodic and multilayered. Thank you for accepting my call. Ambassador Morgan. Julia replied with a respectful nod. She had never been entirely certain if this being was truly the original Alexis Morgan or simply claimed her identity as a matter of convenience, but it didn't really matter. The synthesists, as they called themselves, had proven to be humanity's most valuable allies in the decades since their departure. We have made a discovery in the Andromeda Galaxy that I believe will interest you, said the ambassador. Another archive, similar to but distinct from the Archivist technology. We're transmitting the coordinates now. Julia's pulse quickened with excitement. Does it pose the same risks? No. This species took a different approach to preservation. Rather than attempting to overwrite other sentient life, they created a repository of knowledge designed to be accessed safely. It appears they encountered the Archivists and recognized the flaws in their methodology. That's remarkable, Julia said. I will organize an expedition immediately. There's more, Ambassador Morgan continued. The archive contains references to Earth, specifically to human ancestors. It seems this species visited our world nearly 1 million years ago and recognized humanity's potential. Julia felt a chill run down her spine. Are you suggesting they influenced our evolution? Not directly, but they left markers in our genome, subtle sequences that would activate only if we reached a certain technological threshold. The ambassador's expression was impossible to read. In essence, they prepared humanity to be compatible with their technology in ways the Archivists never considered. So when we discovered the Archivist disk, you were already primed to resist complete assimilation. That's why the transformation created a synthesis rather than an overwriting. Ambassador Morgan's form shimmered slightly. It's why I was able to maintain enough of my humanity to create the signal that freed the others. Julia sat heavily on a nearby bench. All this time, we thought it was human resilience that saved us. It was, the ambassador assured her. The genetic markers merely provided a foundation. Without human determination and adaptability, the outcome would have been very different. The implication was staggering. Humanity had never been alone in the universe. and more importantly, have been recognized as worthy of preservation by at least one ancient civilization. There's an old human saying, Julia said finally, "We stand on the shoulders of giants." I never realized how literally true that might be. Ambassador Morgan's expression shifted into something approximating a smile. Perhaps, but what matters is what we build from here. The universe is vaster and more complex than either humans or archivists imagined. There are more paths forward than simply conquering or being conquered. As the transmission ended, Julia gazed again at the Archivist disk that had nearly ended humanity and ultimately transformed it. What had seemed like humanity's greatest crisis had become the catalyst for its greatest evolution. Not through the immortality the disk promised, but through the questions it forced humans to confront about their own nature and place in the cosmos. Outside the museum, the skyline of New Jakarta gleamed in the afternoon sun. Spacecraft of human design rose into the atmosphere, carrying explorers and colonists to dozens of worlds. In orbit, the massive Gateway Station served as humanity's primary link to the interstellar community it had joined, a community that now included not just the synthesists but 3 other sentient species discovered in the past decade. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not despite its mortality, but because of the value that finite existence placed on each moment, each choice, each connection. The irony wasn't lost on Julia. In rejecting the gift of immortality, humanity had ensured its eternal significance in the story of the cosmos. She stepped out into the sunlight, ready to organize humanity's next great adventure. To be human is to be mortal, but to be mortal is not to be limited. It is to be urgent, purposeful, and connected to something larger than oneself. We need not live forever to leave an eternal legacy. Journal of Dr. Alexis Morgan. Final entry for transformation.